This is the show that has a proven track record.
The game itself, it's usually not a specific section of the game that jumps out. It's the entirety of the game. That's what people talk about.
This is a show that has a real approach to sports.
Only 540 people total, not on the football team, obviously, total signed up for this.
This is a show that's not going to give you the sweet stuff.
It's not to take anything away from his stretch run. I'm just not going to give him the award because of that.
This is the award-winning show that's giving you the truth, just like they always have.
What are we talking about?
Where are we at in society today?
Listen and learn.
This is Delay of Game, the Sports Talk podcast.
Oh, welcome in to the second edition of the relaunch. Delay of Game, Ryan Swanigan, Brent Bonfuller, Matt Rigby with you. Say it again, Brent.
Hey.
There it is. Matt Rigby also here. He's all decked out in his Denver Broncos gear. So ready to go for today.
We're ready.
Oh, yeah.
We're locked in.
And he also has some interesting... Well, you were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, imagine if you actually manned up and picked an NFL team. We could all be wearing our
I was
favorite
really
teams.
pulling hard for the Chiefs, yesterday.
Yeah.
He put his clothes away.
Really pulling hard. I don't have any Chiefs. Well,
You're sort of Chiefs.
this
I
is
mean, you got
Nebraska.
the red,
this is Nebraska men's basketball.
Yeah.
Who beat Illinois in Champaign for the first time in quite some time.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I want to commit to the Chiefs or not. You know, I just don't know.
Gosh.
I just don't know.
This must be like a deeply rooted issue in your life. Like you're afraid of commitment or something.
No, I'm not afraid of commitment. I'm just, when it comes to the NFL, I'm afraid of commitment.
That's weird.
I don't know why.
Most of the time it's with other people, you know, like committing to, you know, like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife. But
I'm fine with that.
You have it with sports teams.
With no, not even
just sports teams, just the NFL.
Just the NFL itself.
So they're like something like misfired, like one of your dendrites in your brain
Well,
misfired.
we've had this conversation before. I was a Broncos fan.
Yeah.
I was raised a Chiefs fan. Then when I was old enough to, actually start paying attention to things, I became a Broncos fan. I was a Broncos fan for so long. And then when they turned into crap, then I just, backed away. And then, because the only games that we could pick up on the radio were Chiefs games, I would just listen to them because I loved listening to Mitch Holthus, the play-by-play announcer for the Chiefs.
Right.
He's awesome. So I'm not really a Chiefs fan. I listen to them kind of like how I'm leaning towards with Nebraska sports. I'm leaning less and less away from being a fan and more just listening to the games. But with the Chiefs, it's the other way around. I feel like I'm slowly creeping towards being a Chiefs fan again for I think the third time in my life now. I go back and forth. I go back and forth between Denver and Kansas City. And then, I kind of like Green Bay. Arizona is growing on me a little bit after last night. The past 2 seasons, I was liking the 49ers for a little while.
You could be a St. Louis Rams fan. That's a team to be a fan of.
Just pick right in the middle there, of like all these teams,
Oh, Matt Rigby right there. Oh, yeah, that'd be a great team.
Yeah,
great future ahead for the St. Louis Rams.
Go buy a bunch of merchandise right now. Decorate your whole room. Although they'll probably keep the colors, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they already revealed
it'd be
the
a
logo.
marketing. Did they? Because I was going to say it'd be a marketing mistake. I'd be shocked if they didn't go back to the. I mean, keep the basic color scheme, but go back to the.
To
LA
the old
Rams,
stuff?
the light blue and yellow rather than the dark blue and gold. You know that's what they used to wear in LA.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I mean, I'd be shocked if they didn't go back to that.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of time for that to happen. So you have till what? Usually they unveil that stuff in June or something. After the draft, I guess.
Yeah.
Or that's right.
Probably
the draft.
during the draft.
The draft, because it will now be
the new.
with the whatever pick the Rams have. The Los Angeles Rams select. It won't be the St. Louis Rams.
Yeah.
That will. Oh man. That will be interesting.
Wow.
I know. Tell me about it.
Whoa!
Yeah. So before we get started with a rant, kind of a pre-rant subject here that has just come up within the last 48 hours, 36 hours, I guess. I've just been seeing this word in so many places over the last 2 or 3 days. It's the word adulting. Now, here's what I've been able to come up with. So the term adulting is basically coined by millennials. I guess I'm a part of that group, even though I am not a part of that group, if that makes sense. So millennials are coining this term, and essentially, as my sister put it, adulting is the act of doing adult things such as paying taxes and mortgages and rent and, so on and so forth, having a job post-college life. And then my sister goes on to add things I cannot do successfully. I posted a question on my Facebook yesterday asking, can I get some opinions on the word adulting? Another buddy of mine said a trendy word for those under 30, laughable at best. The non-meth head equivalent of swole, usable, and loathable at best. Another person I know...
The non-meathead?
Meathead.
Yeah.
Not meth head.
You said meth head.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Meathead.
Ryan?
I'm sorry.
Freudian slip, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's my bad. I apologize. Non-meathead equivalent of swole. I'm sorry. Thank you, Matt. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Like a meth head? Wow. Swole?
Yeah. Whoops.
You better double check that, my friend.
Another person said...
Only Ryan Swanee.
Yes, exactly. That's almost... You know what? Well, hold on. Let me read this last comment, and then I'll tell you what adulting really means. It's another person commented, it's the act of doing adulty things by actual adults who don't want to be an adult anymore. And then I don't personally use the term, but I find it entertaining seeing as how I can relate sometimes. So, really what adulting means, let's be honest. The Germans are slowly re-advancing themselves. That's what it means. That's probably what it means. But no, so I'm
what?
Don't you remember that? We're not going into the story of that soundbite.
Yes, no, I know the story of the soundbite, but it makes no sense.
Okay, that's the point.
Oh, okay. So adulting makes no sense to you.
My point with this is, what? Really? If you're using the term adulting to describe being an adult, you're not actually being an adult by using a term that's not real. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a term.
Using the word adulting does not prove that you're being an adult. It just means that you're still stuck in your, college life or high school life, whatever, and coming up with words to describe the pain and I use air quotes around this, pain and suffering of being an adult. Yeah. It's like, get over it. Yeah. Seriously. Get over it. Don't come up with some whiny term to describe, oh man, I gotta do adult things now. Where's a word for that? We gotta come up with words for everything. We gotta come up with a word for being an adult, a word for playing music too loud in your car, for...
What's that word?
I don't know.
Oh.
I mean, a word for being a... I don't even know. Like, we gotta come up with words and stuff to have things correctly. It's like, no. And this one of them all, it's like, no, this is not a word. Stop using it. You're not actually being an adult if you're using the word adulting. Come on. I mean, oh, goodness. That was a pre-rant thing, too. Let's get into the real thing here.
It's now time for a little R&R.
Ryan's rant, that is. Back to the explosion of a topic that Ryan has in store for today's podcast.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah! Check it out!
there's something that's just really bothering the guy, and now you're about to find out what it is.
You gotta be kidding me! Nobody's tackling anybody! Do it live!
There's some absurd things going on in the world of sports, and Ryan's pretty fired up about them.
Hello? You kidding me?
They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
That's not true!
And now, here's the original delay of game produced, Ryan's Rant.
All right, so getting away from little schoolgirl topics like adulting and getting into something real that actually is an adult topic. Interestingly enough, still involving women. And it's Jessica Mendoza, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball color commentator. She filled in for Kurt Schilling, who slipped up, I guess.
He was bad at adulting.
He did. Matt Rigby is on it today, folks. This kid is on it today. Oh, gosh. Yes, you could say that. He slipped up and in his adulting, I guess. That's just going to go throughout the show now. So ESPN decided to give Jessica Mendoza a full-time spot on Sunday Night Baseball. And I remember when they originally called her up, I guess, if you will, for, we're talking about baseball now, and had her replace Schilling for the remainder of the season. And everybody was freaking out. It's like, oh, you can't have a woman on Sunday Night Baseball. You can't do it. Why not? What's
You gotta be kidding me!
What's wrong with that? You have a problem? Here's what you should have a problem with. If she can't talk about the game of baseball. But guess what? Jessica Mendoza knows what the hell she's talking about. Yeah. Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah!
So now she's getting a full-time spot, and props to her. All the props in the world to her, because she deserves it. Because she knows what she's talking about on national television. What a concept. Because guess what? You kind of have to know what you're talking about in order to, not just be on national television. It's a basic requirement for any job. I work in the news business. I produce for a TV station. I produce the morning show. I got to know what the heck I'm doing in order to hold on to my job. Now, some people, of course, argue, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. And others say, oh, he's fine. Well, I'll let them decide. But the point is, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know how to produce, how to work in a department store, how to work in retail, how to work in a grocery store, how to work this, how to work that job, how to be a business person, how to work on Wall Street, how to be the president, how to be a politician, how to do all this stuff, how to run an organization, how to be a color commentator for sports. And Jessica Mendoza knows how to talk baseball. She knows the game. And she knows how to do her job. And she knows how to be a color commentator. You pull them all together, and you get what you have seen for the last few months of Sunday Night Baseball and what we're expecting as things go forward. So people who are hating on Jessica Mendoza, saying this is ridiculous and undeserved, why? Because you can't do her job? You think you can do better? If you could, you probably would have already been in her position or been at some level of the ESPN color commentating tree. But you're not. You're probably, I don't know, sitting in a basement somewhere, sitting in your living room on your chair eating Cheetos and commenting on YouTube pages or on the comments section of an article on, some sort of social media website that concentrates on sports. So stop hating on Jessica Mendoza because she's doing a phenomenal job. She's doing a better job than you would, or than I would for sure. Now, Matt Rigby, I don't know about, but that kid's pretty good. But still, the point is, Jessica Mendoza knows baseball, and she knows how to talk about baseball on national television as a color commentator, and she knows how to do it very well. So stop hating on her, because you probably can't do a better job than she can, which is why she has the job that she's got, and you've got the job that you have. Who knows what that is? So stop hating on her. Give the woman a break. Give women a break, okay? I ranted about the last rant of the route. I ranted about how everybody was hating on Beth Mowins. Beth Mowins is a better play-by-play announcer than you. And you know it, and if you're jealous about it, well, that's too bad. She's the one that got the degree. You didn't. You decided to go into, I don't know, travel insurance. I don't think that's a major in the business college, but I could be wrong. Brent, is that a major? Travel insurance? Is that a major in business?
Probably not.
Yeah. See,
I don't know.
I don't know why I'm hating on business college today, but maybe I am. I just am. I don't know why. Too bad. Anyways, stop hating on women in sports, please. Please. Just stop it.
Hello?
They're better than you. Way better than you. So, yeah.
Turn it off, sir. Don't play it again.
Yeah. Something similar to that nature. Matt, any thoughts on that? Because I know you're, of course, a huge baseball guy, and I just said you're a darn good color commentator, and
well, I think
you know the requirements for being a color commentator and play-by-play person.
I think that it's ridiculous to criticize ESPN's decision, or taking that one step further, criticize Mendoza's analysis inside the sport of baseball, because I mean, baseball is universal regardless of gender. I mean, like softball, the confines of it are, I mean, obviously they adjust the game a little bit to adjust for the athletic differences between men and women, if you will, as bodies advance and they get older. But softball in the confines is the exact same as baseball. The analysis crosses over. I mean, it parallels one another. So it's not like she's an analyst for a sport that she didn't play. It's not like she's in a football booth analyzing, a cover three that she never was a part of. She was more in the front lines than anyone who reads a book on baseball or just has watched baseball their whole life. She's more in the front lines than I am. She's more in the front lines than any of us are. I mean, she has competed within or inside of a game that has the exact same structure as the one the men play. So to criticize it inside of that specific sport really makes no sense to me. And I think it's misogyny. It's deeper rooted, deeper seated problems within people that they don't want their precious game tarnished, their precious game that they never played, number one. And that number two, Ryan, and you hit on this, they never pursued heavily enough themselves to be a part of. Yeah. They're sitting on the sidelines. So yeah, and furthermore, and let me just add this, as someone who watches Sunday Night Baseball almost every week, I love Curt Schilling. I mean, I think he's a very insightful analyst, but I thought she brought a lot to the broadcast. I mean, she was bringing a ton. What was the other one? It was a three-man booth. It was her, Kruk, and Shulman, right?
Yeah.
I felt at times, and this isn't a shot at Kruk, but I felt at times her changeup, and pardon my pun there, but her changeup analysis-wise was refreshing, to get away from even what Kruk was doing all the time.
Oh, my gosh. That's a rant for another time, John Kruk, that is.
But I think that it's a needed evolution. And I don't always agree with that, with just giving women the job or giving minorities the job simply to meet a quota, but I think she was actually deserving in this case, and it's a positive trend to see in that specific sport going forward. And
that's why I say it goes back to you have to know what the hell you're doing.
Absolutely,
that's simple. It doesn't matter if you're a foreigner, if you're a woman, if you're a man, if you're a child, if you're a minority, whatever. The simple fact of the matter is you need to know what the heck you are doing. And you need to prove that to people. And unfortunately, as I've said this many times on the route and on the layoff game, we have still a society that will not move on from the ideal of putting dividers in place and saying, well, yeah, you're doing a great job, but you're a woman. No, knock that crap off. Again, it does not matter. The only thing that should matter is, does the person know what they're doing, and can they do it at a successful, I guess, rate, or, produce a successful product? And Jessica Mendoza does that.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
You ever listen, and she's doing a lot of women's college basketball right now, but she's done some NBA and studio hosting. She's done some NBA analysis, color analysis as well. I feel like I learn more from Doris Burke than I do about basketball than I do 15 guys that are analysts, former players that are analysts. I mean, she's an encyclopedia on not just the history of the game, but the strategical developments of the game. And I learn a ton from her. And I'm glad that she has the spot that she has. And I realize not only when I'm watching her that I'm learning so much from her, but that she has connections throughout the women's college basketball landscape that probably would do just as good a job as her. That I think that's probably an untapped gold mine that we haven't even got to yet. So really, in reality, we should be focusing on how can we find more because they're good.
Of course.
Rather than how can we exclude.
Exactly. I think we mentioned Doris Burke. There's and I don't know if you know Megan Williams or not. Brent, you know Megan Williams, UNL broadcasting alum. She's on the women's basketball coaching staff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you should know Megan Williams. Megan Williams.
I don't know her personally.
Megan Williams. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. I guess I'm the only one here that knows Megan Williams personally. But Megan Williams her first broadcast was a women's basketball game on KRNU with Sydney Boyd and Wade Hillegas. And I think I was doing play-by-play for BTN Student U with John Kipper. And that was Megan Williams' first ever broadcast. She has not had... I've had way more broadcasts than Megan Williams has, and Megan Williams has already done, I think, 3 games for BTN NET coverage for women's basketball. 1 last year, and I think 2 this year. Mm-hmm. And she is, I can't describe how good she is. She is awesome. Megan Williams is a great color commentator because she knows the game. And she has done broadcasting work before. And when you combine that, you get a great product like Doris Burke, like Jessica Mendoza, like Megan Williams, and, so on and so forth. And Megan Williams has really, I wish they would give her more games to do, because I think she could really be a stellar color commentator. She already is as it is right now. But she is phenomenal. And I certainly hope, and I've said this to her and I've said this to a whole bunch of people before, I certainly hope that she has great success moving forward because she could really be an awesome color commentator for basketball, for men's, for women's. She is... honestly, I think a natural-born talent at doing that. So that's why I say it does not matter, male or female, if you can do the job well and produce a high-caliber, I guess, product, finished product, you deserve the job. Because I can guarantee you those who produce that are working their butts off to make sure that they do it more often than not. And you see it a lot more with guys slacking off, and yet they can still put on a great product than with women, from what I've noticed at least. But I could be wrong.
Well, the one thing I'll add to this is that, I mean, first of all, ESPN doesn't hire bad people.
Oh, of course not.
Or they do. They never get on the air. They never get a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already qualified. And I think being a woman brings a whole different perspective that most people haven't heard, that men just can't give, simply because, you just see things differently.
Yeah, everybody sees it differently.
It's not better and it's not worse either way. Bringing a woman into a broadcast doesn't make that better than if there were two men, and if there were two women, that doesn't make it better than two men. It's not better. It's just different. But when you have both and other perspectives, the more perspectives and more diverse lineups you can put out there, that does make your product overall better.
Oh yeah.
If there were 3 stations and so ESPN 1, 2, and 3, and ESPN 1 was all men, and ESPN 2 was all women, and ESPN was half and half, that would be the best station, because you got more diverse opinions and different perspectives to put out there. A lot of Fortune 500 companies, the biggest corporations, the richest, or the ones that make the most money, have very diverse leadership and management. And that's what makes the difference.
Exactly. So stop hating on Jessica Mendoza and women who can do a better job than you, because there's probably a reason why. To summarize that up and cap off this rant.
This is Delay of Game,
a sports talk podcast. Available on YouTube and online at thedelayofgamepodcast.wordpress.com.
All right, so we now move on to the next portion of the show.
Delay of Game is going to the monitor and having a look at something controversial or crucial from the week in sports. It's under review.
See, we even have a woman do our voiceovers. She does a great job. It doesn't have to be a guy.
Sounds better than we would.
Oh, good grief. Bunch of freaking haters. All right, I need to move on from that. NFL coaching situations, I guess, part 2. There's always 2 parts to this. The firings, and then the next week it's the hirings. And we've got the hirings. And I've got to start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I think it was you, Matt, who said it doesn't make sense. Well, we both agreed that it doesn't make sense that they fired Lovie Smith, but it doesn't even make any more sense to hire the guy that they hired, the offensive coordinator, Dirk Cutter.
Dirk Cutter was on the staff. Like. You could have kept Dirk Cutter as your offensive coordinator and hired somebody else. Like, Dirk Cutter wasn't a highly coveted head coach. He wasn't going somewhere else. There wasn't like, oh, man, if we don't hire Dirk Cutter, he's going to take one of these other jobs. You know how many other teams were interested in Dirk Cutter? 0.
Yeah.
There were none.
Exactly.
No other team wanted him. So I don't understand. I get, to an extent, we talked about this last week, to an extent I understand Lovie being fired, because his side of the ball wasn't getting the job done. Now, the improvement, probably, I think we all agree, should have kept him his job.
Oh yeah.
From year 1 to year 2. But I don't totally hate them firing him. But you can fire Lovie Smith, keep Dirk Cutter on for Jameis Winston, and hire another better head coach. You know what I think a lot of it is, and the Browns struggled with this in their last head coaching search with when they ended up settling for Mike Pettin. And I don't know if you guys remember this, and I actually had to look up the timeline a couple days ago. The Browns had like close to agreements with like 4 or 5 coaches, and every one of those coaches, you almost never see this in the NFL, because it's the cream of the crop. It's the top of the mountain to climb for a NFL head coach. or for any football head coach. Almost like 4 or 5 guys had backed out of the Browns job because it just wasn't good enough. And I wonder if the Bucs assessed their job, although I think it's a good job right now, and said, man, nobody really wants to come to Tampa. We'll hire Dirk Cutter. And I also wonder, and you saw this in San Francisco, I think there's such a thing as a stopgap head coach in the NFL. I really do. I think that the Niners only planned on keeping Tom Sula for 1 year. It could be that the Bucs say, a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback needs 2 years at least under the same OC. So we'll keep Cutter around for 1 more year. And maybe he's a lame duck head coach. It's possible. They wouldn't tell him that, but that's possible too, because it just doesn't seem like, and I'll leave this with both of you, it doesn't seem like a long-term fit. It doesn't seem like a long-term hire.
Unless some drastic success comes Tampa Bay's way, which it could. With Jameis Winston there, it certainly could, but I think that's more of a long shot than anything else.
No, I 100% agree. It's just like, what if you didn't have someone? It'd be like trading up in the draft, but not having a specific player you're looking for. And, it's like, why would you make a big move, but not really have? Just like you said, it makes no sense. Why wouldn't you just keep things the same? Because now, I'm guessing the offense will remain mostly the same, but who are they going to bring in to be the new offensive coordinator? How's that going to mess up things? I'm trying to find a logic behind this, but I just don't think there is one.
There are times, the NFL is so strange because it's the only sport, in my opinion, where coaching decisions are made not on a total meritocracy, because nothing in the job industry is a meritocracy, but on your performance. I mean, Dirk Cutter did some really good things with that offense last year. Everyone focuses on Jameis Winston, but how about the career revival of Doug Martin, who was dead basically for he had a great rookie season. His second year was a plummet, and everyone figured, okay, Doug Martin's done. Doug Martin was second in the NFL in rushing yards this year. I mean, he quietly averaged close to 100 yards a game, and only Adrian Peterson outrushed him. So, there's merit for Dirk Cutter. Like, he did a good job, but was it good enough? Sometimes I think merit overtakes in football, because you don't see merit getting guys a manager job in baseball. You don't see a pitching or a team with a great staff. It's not all of a sudden like, oh, now their pitching coach is a hot commodity. It doesn't work that way. So it's almost like in the NFL, merit takes over for long-term vision sometimes. And I don't know, it's the not for long league, so maybe you don't need long-term vision sometimes, but those teams, they this is why teams like Tampa Bay stay mired in mediocrity. They really do.
Yeah, exactly. I love that, the not for long league. Yeah, it's like most of the really great coaches, you just don't start as an amazing coach. Nick Saban's first year, you have coaches that have good years in their first year, but it's not like you just come in and you're just an amazing coach. The way teams get good and stay good, like Alabama, like in college football, like the Patriots in the NFL, like the Spurs in the NBA, is they keep they're stable. There's stability there. They keep guys. There's some moves and stuff. Assistant coaches come and go at times, but you don't just wake up or start your first coaching job in the NFL as an amazing coach. You have to build to it. And it's just like I want this right now league. And I get that there are hundreds of millions of dollars in play, but if you actually want to build something, you're eventually going to make, the good teams make, except for the Cowboys, somehow they are the most valuable. I think
money.
Yeah.
Money.
Right, yeah. There are exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, you have to build into being a good franchise. Like Arizona. Bruce Arians, what? Who? Before? But he's been there for a little while. Tom Coughlin. He'd been around forever, but he built himself into a great coach, and they let him stay a long time. Yeah. Even Marvin Lewis. In Cincinnati. The guy never won a playoff game, but still, he had one of the best teams in the NFL. And let's face it, if Andy Dalton had been healthy, they most likely would have, they would have at least had a win or two more in the regular season, and they might have won their playoff game.
Oh, yeah.
Probably would have, based on the way that game went. So, yeah, it just makes no sense. But, it's like, surely they have to recognize this. All those millionaires that get paid to be in the front office of these sports franchises, surely they have the insight that we do as casual fans to see, okay, well, maybe we need to just stick with something for a while and see how it goes. But no, it's just, it's like each year. If you don't turn the program around, if you don't flip your wins and your losses, like, you're out.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
I think, too, and you can pull the New York Giants in with this, with their hiring the offensive coordinator, Ben McAdoo.
Right, it's the same thing.
I think it's also a matter of the thing that really gets the world moving around, which is money. If you go, and I heard this the other day, I think on ESPN, and it makes sense. If you hire within, it's cheaper than hiring from, like for example, with the 49ers hiring Chip Kelly. They threw a whole bunch of money at him, whereas the Giants and the Bucks, they just went in-house and basically gave a guy essentially, the equivalent of a pay raise, pretty much, moved him to head coach, but they're not shelling out a whole bunch of money to bring in a guy from the outside.
I don't think that money matters at all. I don't think money
for those franchises. I would think so, particularly for Tampa Bay.
Maybe. Maybe a little bit
for them for sure.
Yeah, it's still that franchise is still worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and like $1 or $2 extra $1 million. If you can't afford that, you're in really rough shape. Yeah. That's bad.
Some of the other hirings that I thought were interesting. We just mentioned Cleveland and San Francisco, two franchises that really just cannot figure it out anymore. Especially San Francisco, because their general manager and owner, Jed York and Trent Baalke, are literally have become blind to the fact that they are the problem and everything else around them is not. So they went and hired Chip Kelly, who is a guy who has you could say it's so, their views are so different, they're almost the same. It kind of, it just feels like that's what, I guess, brings those three together. But you definitely are going to have clashing of egos, and who knows? This is a 4-year deal, supposedly. Who knows how long this is going to last? Chip Kelly could be there for one season, to be fully honest with you, because Jed York and Trent Baalke are just greatest duo in the NFL.
That's not true.
Yeah, not even. It's. I can't. I really can't put words to it, because it is to the point where it is so bad. And the 49ers really believe that hiring Chip Kelly is just going to solve the problem. And it's like,
that's not true.
Yeah. It's not going to be that way, folks. It's not.
You better double check that, my friend.
It's not. I'm just going to say it's not. You can't. Chip Kelly is like Nick Saban. He's a college football coach, and a great one. Get him in the NFL? No, it's not. It's just not going to really work out. It can work out so well in college, and you can even throw Jim Harbaugh in this, I guess. It's even more kind of a stretch, though. But Chip Kelly is not an NFL coach. He's stuck with I think of this, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel that he is stuck with the idea that you can't have consistency with your players. because that's what happens in college. You only have your players in college football for so long, and then they're out the door, and you get the next round, and then the next round, and then the next round, and etc. That doesn't happen in the NFL. You can hold on to players for as long as you want and build a team that can be successful and hold on to those guys for an extended period of time compared to college football. But Chip Kelly, I don't think, understands that concept, and that's why I think he failed miserably with the Eagles. He changed his both quarterbacks from one season to the other. And then he also changed his running backs from one season to the other. And he made other changes from one season to the other in the wide receivers. It's like, dude, you can't do that. You can't do that. So I don't know what's going to happen in San Francisco. We're probably going to see a lot of changes next season, and maybe this season after that. But like I said, contrasting egos between Chip Kelly and Jed York and Trent Baalke, and I don't know how well that's going to work out. That's what I see, Matt.
I think that Niners fans, I have, being from the West Coast, I have a pretty decent contingency of friends who are Niners fans. I think that my crowdsourcing of them in the immediacy of the hire has been that they almost get the feeling like this is a ship waiting to collide into an iceberg, but like the ship's gonna make some progress first. Like they know that like this probably isn't the return to the last 4 years of Niners football, and the reason they know that is what you hit on, Ryan, is that they're under terrible ownership right now.
Yeah, their
general manager is tyrannical, so they know that until those things change, they're probably not going to, turn the ship around and get or go around the iceberg, if you will. But they're kind of excited for the prospect of at least moving the football for the next maybe year, maybe 2 years. I mean, the Niners were like historically bad at offensively last year. I mean, people didn't realize because the Niners defense kept them in some games, and Tom Sula did a good job coaching up the defense despite his shortcomings. People didn't realize that the Niners had statistically the worst offense by far. It was far worse than, say, the Browns. And so
it's horrible.
That shouldn't happen with Carlos Hyde on your offense and Torrey Smith and some other wide receivers who have potential. It shouldn't happen with, despite his shortcomings that we discussed last week. It shouldn't happen with Colin Kaepernick at quarterback. He shouldn't be dead last in the NFL. So
yeah,
I mean, in that respect, they're excited to probably move the football, but I agree with you, Ryan. I don't think Chip Kelly's an NFL head coach. I mean, I don't think that. I think it's a lot of confusion about how to win throughout the organization, because I think what Chip Kelly displayed is that he's smart. I mean, his ability to know football didn't go away. It's just a different level. It's a different speed of the game in the NFL, and you can't keep what's the term? You can't keep gimmicking your way to the top.
Right.
Not in his specific case, but for the Niners. You can't gimmick your way to this and that and this and that and this and that and try to prove that you are smarter than everyone else because you knew to fire Jim Harbaugh. Like, no, you had your coach and you let him go. And sometimes you just need to say that you were wrong about that in order for the long-term success of the franchise and the longevity of success for the franchise. So, I mean, they're stuck for a few years. I agree.
And let's remember, Chip Kelly, too, by the way, went from UConn football to Oregon football for unrealistic years of success for him, and then jumped to the NFL. So in a 10-year span, he's gone from UConn football, University of Connecticut football, not exactly a college football, a storied program in college football,
right,
to Oregon, to the NFL in 10 years. That's not going to exactly be a method of success, at least in my mind. Kind of like Ryan Tannehill. Remember Ryan Tannehill in college was a wide receiver? He was a wide receiver.
No, he's a quarterback.
He was a converted quarterback.
Yeah.
He was a wide receiver. They converted him to quarterback and now he's in the NFL. And not that exactly, everybody keeps saying, oh, well, Tannehill's going to get the... Folks.
He's a converted wide receiver. Converted wide receiver? Over?
When is the last time a converted wide receiver to the quarterback position has had success in the NFL? I can't think of anything. I don't think it's ever happened. So why should I believe that's going to happen for Ryan Tannehill? Ryan Tannehill's done a pretty good job. But he's not leading the Miami Dolphins to the postseason anytime soon. So that might be another situation with the Dolphins. But my point is the similarities between Tannehill and Chip Kelly. You're going from one area that's low end in football, and you're going up to the highest of highs in that amount of time frame. It's too much change, and you miss things when you're going through stuff. And yeah, so anyways, let's get to the big one though. The Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns hiring Hugh Jackson, the Bengals offensive coordinator. And this is what I love. I love this so much. I think it was Jackson, I believe, who said that Johnny Manziel essentially is, this is not verbatim, but is the equivalent of not a part of the franchise anymore. And that...
Johnny Manziel's in a class of his own.
He really is now, in a class of his own, a class as in a class of learning how to deal with free agency.
Adulting 101 is
yes.
class.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's some talk that Dallas is going to pick him up. Oh, please.
Well, that's where he should have gone in the first place, let's be honest.
Oh, I would love
Cowboys should have drafted him in the first place.
To see that.
They had their chance. I remember we sat in KRNU, myself, Doug Lowry, John Kipper, Connor Happer, James Volbrel, and somebody else was in there, I think. I can't. No, that was it. And we sat in KRNU, and we saw that the Cowboys were coming up, and Johnny Manziel just was kept on falling. Pick number 15, Dallas Cowboys. That should have been Johnny Manziel. And they didn't. I don't even know who they drafted. They didn't pick
Claiborne,
him up.
right?
No, that was the Zach Martin year. It was
Zach Martin?
They used an O-lineman. It was either Zach Martin or it was Travis Frederick.
It must have been Zach Martin.
It was they drafted an O-lineman that year.
They did not draft Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, right.
So they missed their chance, and now they want to get him again. It's like, well,
why?
What are you going to do?
You've seen him flop.
You're going to take him from Cleveland, a boring city.
I mean, granted, you get him for just about free.
Yeah, you're going to take him from Cleveland, a boring city in which he's already getting into trouble there. Now you're going to take him to Dallas, a big city, big metropolitan area, and you're going to get him back, 1, in his backyard, 2, in a more trouble, and 3, who knows, maybe he'll sneak his way down to Austin and go back to that Texas frat party.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, okay, all right. Oh, but no, Jerry Jones will come in and save the day, because he'll whip him into shape down there in Dallas, just like he did with that Greg Hardy feller there. Yeah, okay, good luck with that.
Hello?
Yeah. All right, sure.
You kidding me?
I think it'll be fantastic. Can you
think
imagine?
Johnny Manziel with Dallas will be fantastic?
Oh, I don't think they'll be good at all. No, I think he'll be awful football-wise.
Well, don't forget, there's a guy named Tony Romo in front of him.
Well, yeah.
Funny how that works.
But Romo gets hurt all the time. I mean, he's like...
That's true.
He's not on the Ben Roethlisberger level, but, he's hurt this year. I do think that Johnny Manziel's a better backup for Romo than, like, Kellen Moore or Brandon Weeden.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's close, even with Weeden. But, can you imagine? That's all ESPN's going to be, which is going to be annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Manziel in Dallas.
I'm going to come home from work in the morning. I'm trying to, eat something, and all of us, every 15 minutes, Johnny Manziel in Texas.
Yeah. But can you imagine? Can you imagine? I mean, the biggest spotlight. I mean, it's somehow the most popular team in the NFL.
America's team.
Yeah, America's team, and they've got Johnny Manziel at quarterback. Oh, it's going to be fantastic to watch.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. Holy cow! I hope so much that happens.
Anyways, back to Cleveland. Hugh Jackson. I mean, I don't know if there's any success that could be pulled into Cleveland in the first year. But then again, stranger things have happened. But they need a quarterback.
Yeah.
And they keep trying, and they get these guys who are just the equivalent of backups. Brian Hoyer.
Well, they never picked the number one guy.
Yeah. But
they never picked Jameis Winston.
You know.
They always pick Marcus Mariota.
Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
Josh McCown.
Brandon Weeden.
These guys are backups.
Yeah.
Backups. Get a quarterback. Not a backup quarterback, a quarterback. Get a leader. That's what Cleveland needs. You know, it's funny how you look down the street and over there, and I can't remember where the Cavs play, which is kind of sad.
Quicken Loans
Arena.
Mm-hmm.
Look down the street. What do they have? Oh, they have a leader. What's his name? Oh, LeBron James. Oh my gosh. Wow. Funny how that works out. When you have a leader, you have a team. When you have a team that's successful with a leader, they're great.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, I think Cleveland and Jacksonville have been pretty much in the same tier for the past few years, but look at Jacksonville now.
Yeah, Brian Hoyer is becoming a leader.
Blake Bortles.
Who did I just say? Brian
Hoyer.
Oops.
He's with the Texans.
You better double check that, my friend.
He threw like 6 interceptions.
It's okay. We knew what you meant to say.
Do you feel like a loser?
Boy, do I.
Becoming a leader in playoff
Blake
interceptions.
Bortles.
Brian Hoyer.
Right. Brian Hoyer,
A leader. Yeah, a leader.
He's a leader in that category. Yeah,
right. No,
Blake Bortles.
But look at Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
And Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns.
Again, you build a team around a leader. Look what happens.
I mean, they still need a lot of work. But
a lot of
I think,
defensive help.
Yeah, within the next 2 years, if not next year, I think the year after, they'll be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They're in a pretty weak division.
I hope so. Jacksonville, I very, very fun fantasy team. Couple of really fun fantasy players to have in your team.
And I think,
Bortles and
they're one of those teams that
etc.
just said, okay, they were honest with themselves, said, we are terrible. I mean, because they were the bottom. Mm-hmm. They were the absolute worst team in the NFL. And it's slow. And it might be, I don't know what year you could say. What was the year that they won one game? They beat my Ravens, actually. But I can't remember which year that was. But it was about, probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And it'll probably take another 4 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. But I think in 4 to 5 years, they're going to be a pretty consistent playoff team if they continue on this track, which is what they've been doing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's hard to sustain these things. Like, very few organizations maintain the level of success and growth even. You need growth. You can't just maintain what you have, like the New England Patriots. But if Jacksonville can do that in 4 to 5 years, they'll probably be a perennial AFC contender.
Oh, yeah.
And Cleveland is just like refusing to acknowledge that.
Yeah, they need to do that quickly.
That it's going to take probably a decade. If they start now, it'll probably take a decade for Cleveland to really.
Well, it needs to start with Hugh Jackson.
Yeah. I think this is the one. I mean, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I agree with the assessment that, I mentioned this last week. You never start. There are so many teams that say we're rebuilding, but then never start rebuilding.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to start at some point. Mm-hmm. That being said, my biggest observation, first of all, I thought Hugh Jackson was the best option on the market. I thought Cleveland got the best coach that there was to hire. My observation of Hugh Jackson, especially once Andy Dalton got hurt and McCarron came in, my observation was that if you put him with a young developing quarterback, he can build an offense. I mean, he tailored game plans that made A.J. McCarron successful in the last 4 or 5 games that AJ McCarron played in.
Yeah.
Even in the playoff game, McCarron was moving the football because Hugh Jackson. It wasn't because McCarron was lighting it up with physical abilities. Because Hugh Jackson said, "Okay, we're going to develop, even if it's a 5-week development project." So if you give him a good enough quarterback, I mean, you have to caveat that sometimes, but you give him a good enough quarterback, I think he starts to develop. And then, the key element is patience. You got to be patient with the process. Let him develop. But so many times with Cleveland, it was an imperfect marriage between what are we doing from a head coach level and what are we doing from a personnel level, and it didn't match. And so if they can get a more perfect marriage here, I think Hugh Jackson is the right guy to start that rebuild. I think Cleveland actually got it right with their hiring. Now, if you're Hugh Jackson, are you happy with the Cleveland job? Maybe not. I mean, I'm surprised he took that one. But if he is persistent and he waits it out, I think that he will reap the benefits eventually.
Yeah, definitely. Before we move on, I just have to address the Tennessee Titans. We thought the Tampa Bay Bucks move was dumb, but you're going to keep Mike Mularkey? Okay.
Hey, what
nice
else
guy.
would they do, though? That's the biggest thing.
Well, you've got Doug Marrone out there. Look at the success that Doug Marrone had with the Buffalo Bills in his 2 seasons that he was there.
Yeah.
He was literally a win away from the postseason for Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then they parted ways, or he decided to leave, which was very unfortunate. And now, I don't know where Doug Marrone is, but like Mike Mularkey, okay, maybe they're just taking the cheap route again.
Consistency too. I mean, even if he's not that good, you
hiring
keep a guy
within.
there. Yeah. Well, you just. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Tennessee Titans, that's how interesting the subject of the Tennessee Titans is.
I think it's sort of a Lovie Smith type of situation where even if it's not great, it would be better to keep him there than to just go out and just get someone different and not better.
Right. The Titans did what the Bucks should have done.
Yeah.
And the Titans are doing what they shouldn't have done, if that makes sense, I guess. I don't know. Not for the NFL.
You're listening to Delay of Game,
a sports talk podcast. On Facebook.com/Delay of Game and on Twitter @DOG_podcast.
This is what's really going on with Brent Bonfleur.
So, this is very timely because Matt's got pulled up on his computer. He's got the Seattle-Carolina game. And Carolina just went up 14-0.
Woo!
Early, right?
Yeah, it was only 4 minutes in.
Yeah, four minutes in.
At the time of this podcast being recorded.
Right. Which my topic today, and this isn't like a big, profound thing. I'm not going to go on and on. It's more of a discussion. I'm curious as to what you guys think and if you agree and if you've seen this as well.
Oh, no argument? Oh, man.
Yeah, probably not an argument. I don't know. Maybe one of you completely disagrees with me. But I've been noticing between the Golden State Warriors and the NBA and the Carolina Panthers especially, and maybe you guys can throw in the baseball equipment. I guess maybe it might be Kansas City. Teams that are having extreme success that are just having a really good time doing it. I mean, if you watch, the best example is Cam Newton and the dabbing, the dance, whatever. People are like, well, why are you dancing? Why, who cares? The guy went 15-1 in the regular season, and the best team in the NFL in the regular season. And they're dominating a team that some people think might be the third best team in the NFL or in the playoffs. In Seattle, certainly a team no one wants to play. And they're just having a good time. Every time you see Cam Newton, he's smiling. He's dancing around the team. They take selfies and stuff together. They dance on the field. They high five. They're just out there looking like a bunch of kids, but they're manhandling the other teams. And same thing with Golden State. Steph Curry is not, LeBron James just looks like a like a robot. He's just so good.
Man on a mission.
Yeah, man on a mission. Serious is what he looks like. Steph Curry just looks like he's having a good time. He's just chucking up shots, shooting threes. It's like, playground type of attitude and atmosphere. But they're the best teams in their respective sports. And you got to think, sports are, first of all, games. And you play games, first of all, to have fun, right? Now, granted, these are professional leagues, and it's different. But, and there are exceptions. The Patriots, they rarely look like they're having fun. The Spurs, they rarely look like they're having fun, and they're very good. But, I don't think it's a coincidence that these teams, and most of them are young, which I'm guessing is the biggest factor in this, but they're just having a good time. They're goofing off, but they're taking care of business. And, yeah, they're all supremely talented players in their respective sports. But I just don't think it's a coincidence that the best teams in at least two of the four major sports are also just having a good time. I don't know. What do you guys think? Have you noticed this as well? Do you agree, disagree? Think it's just
you mentioned baseball. First team that came to my mind was the Cubs.
I think of the Cubs. I do think of the Royals too because I think that, like, kind of what Brent's hitting on, as well as having fun. Because the Cubs have fun. The Mets had fun last year, but I think what you're hitting on is like teams hating them for having fun, or
people are saying, "Why are you doing this?"
The landscape of this sports cathedral. Hating the teams that are having fun, and the Royals are hated because they have fun. Like, think of Yordano Ventura. Think of all the brawls that the Royals got in this because they have
because
fun.
of Yordano Ventura, particularly.
And he's maybe a little bit immature, but like the Royals celebrate a base hit like it's a walk-off grand slam.
Yeah,
and that they're having fun. And I think that what sports teaches you a lot of lessons if you really pay attention. One of the biggest lessons, and I'm going to borrow one of my all-time favorite sayings here. One of the biggest lessons it teaches is that there's more than one way to skin a cat. You can win with fun. You can win with, there's so many different recipes. And I think that the sanctimony of, and a lot of this starts in sports media, the sanctimony of sports media, and that we have to have class and we have to constantly have professionalism, but yet the media doesn't know how to define their own terms. They don't know exactly what that means, leads to this constant thought amongst fans, even inside of organizations probably, that we can't win it if we're having fun. We can't win that way. And it's just, it's absurdity really, because when I played football, I felt like I was always had to be serious, because I got caught up in that sanctimony of this is what I see. This is, you have to be serious. If you're not being serious, then how can anyone else take you seriously? How can you perform at your highest level? You have to be serious.
Right.
There were games, I had my best friend used to come up to me before the game, before every football game in high school, and he used to he'd ask me to tell him something funny about my day. This is 2 minutes before the game, and he'd ask me to start telling him stories and stuff. And then I'd ask him later on, well, why are you doing this? He's like, I play better when I'm having fun, when I'm laughing, when I'm when I'm not trying to be so serious, when I'm like, hey, this is just a game. And then I started to think about that, and I translated that into, I tried doing it myself a few games down the road, if I could. It's tough to break that mold in yourself, but he's right. It's not paralysis by analysis. You let loose. You realize that, I'm not overthinking things. I'm just out here having a good time. It breeds confidence. It breeds teammates have confidence in you when they see you enjoying what you're doing, and it's a successful model more than anything else. So I don't understand it either. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't understand. I think the media creates a lot of it. But teams also get fed up with it. Like, there are teams in baseball that hate the Royals because they have fun, and I don't understand that.
Well, imagine the worst thing. And it's bad enough getting beat, but when you get beat and the guy on the other side from you is just smiling and joking and high fiving his teammates, having a great time, that just gets to you. That's way worse than just being beat by some like faceless, emotionless robot. on the other side. And yeah, I think you really hit it on the head where you said, it's like there's this perception in sports that winning and having fun have to be exclusive of one another. You cannot do both. And it's like, why? I don't get it.
I mean, you guys pretty much have said it all. You mentioned Golden State. That honestly, if I had to take a team that is having the most fun of any from the NBA, the NFL, MLB, wherever, I would say it's Golden State.
Oh yeah,
because some of the shots that they are making, the ball movement that's going on, it's just like it's almost. And again, this is why I say that Steph Curry is showing a little bit of, a flashback to Michael Jordan. It's a little Michael Jordan-esque because Steph Curry looks like that, moving the basketball around, because Michael Jordan did that same thing. Michael Jordan was doing all this crazy stuff. Now, granted, Steph Curry not really a dunker like Michael was, but when Michael Jordan is moving the ball around, he was just, defenders were, breaking ankles and kneecaps and legs and everything else because Michael Jordan was doing everything to him. That's what Steph Curry's doing.
It's like I think both of those teams existed in the playground era of basketball. And I think about, I love sports, playing sports for so many reasons growing up as a kid. Obviously, I love the supreme competition that you couldn't really get elsewhere. But, but when I think back to when did I have the most fun, the absolute most fun playing sports, it was probably on a playground at recess in elementary school. And it was that playground mentality of like, and you know what else is funny? And this may be an oversimplification of what the Warriors do because they're a very complex team strategically and X's and O's wise. But some of the best basketball or football or baseball sometimes was played on the playground in elementary school. You're like, hey, that works. We're just out here having fun. Maybe if somebody didn't, maybe if teams did that at a higher level and played playground ball sometimes, it alleviates the seriousness. Man, sports takes itself too serious sometimes. They really do.
Well, and especially in the pros, the pressure is insane. Especially with the media, all the spotlight, who's the best ever, you lost one championship, so are you done? Does this hurt your legacy? I hate when they talk about players' legacies when they're in like their third year in their sport and stuff. But you either have two ways to deal with the pressure. One, you get tight and you play like crap, or think about like Bo Pelini, okay? So it's super pressure on players that they get so tight that they're so afraid to make a mistake. Not that they're not talented enough to do everything that's being asked of them, but they're so scared that if they don't live up, if they make a mistake, they're going to go to the bench or whatever. Or you can just let it all out and have fun. And I'm not comparing. So this is not to say that these teams goof off, or not that they're not taking the game seriously while they're playing in it, and certainly not that they don't prepare or they don't take preparation seriously or they don't take what they're doing, their careers, seriously. I'm sure they do, and they probably prepare and train harder than most other players and most other teams. So it's not like you goof off. There's a difference between having fun like these teams are and like a college team that goes to their bowl game and just gets wasted the whole week and then plays like crap and gets beat by a different team. It's not like that. It's just how you they're still professionals, but it's how you deal with the stress that comes with it. And I don't know. It seems like a win-win. You play well and you actually enjoy what you're doing.
Let me ask you guys as if you want to enter the sports world, even if it were like in the media, would you be fearful? Because I'm fearful of this concept all the time. I'm fearful of getting jaded even as a media member and realizing like, hey, sports, the idea of it was fun when I wanted to go into it. And then somewhere down the line, it lost that. And that's a really fearful idea to me. And so these teams that are having the fun that you're talking about or that we're all talking about, they're not jaded. They're not jaded by like the call it a corrupt nature, call it a fun-sucking nature of the sport that they play.
Right.
They're not jaded, and so I think that's awesome. If we can, the longer we can keep people from being jaded about sports in any realm, player, coach, fan, media member, the better it is.
Yeah. It's way more fun as a fan to watch these teams play.
Exactly.
I mean, is there any other team you'd rather watch play, unless you're a fan of that team, than the Golden State Warriors? Mm-hmm. I mean, who else would you? I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of the Nuggets. They're rivals, and since they're in the same conference. But I would way rather watch Golden State play.
I mean, I would say
than Denver. I watched more Golden State games than Denver games.
The only other team I could think of that would come close to that is San Antonio,
which is so weird. Yeah,
because think of how good San Antonio is right now.
Right.
They have 6 losses. Mm-hmm. They are now.
2 games.
2 games behind Golden State in the West.
Yeah.
And
incredible.
Nobody has been talking about it. It's been Golden State, Golden State, Golden State. And granted, I love that, being a huge Warriors fan. But the fact that San Antonio has just gone about their business, they're playing the game and they're having fun, but they're not really showing everybody that they're having fun. They're just going out and they're just playing basketball.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything flashy like Golden State is, and then some. It's just go out and play basketball, guys. Like, not to say that half the San Antonio Spurs roster is old. I mean, it's old in terms of the game itself, not in age in particular, but it's old men going out and just, shooting the breeze and talking about stuff that's going on, That's the Spurs approach. They're going out, playing basketball, and they're going to win. If they lose, they're going to be upset. Yeah, but, move on to the next game. Tim Duncan says that all the time. Move on to the next game. And that comes from Popovich. Popovich's like, we're moving on to the next game. Nick Saban thing, it's a coach's thing.
No, Nick Saban never has fun.
He did this time. I
think it's just
I think
such
he knew how important that
relief.
game was.
Not, but it's not to say that, like the Patriots, Alabama, they're great examples of teams that they don't have fun, but they win. That's why I said there's so many different ways to skin a cat. I mean, you can win in multiple ways. Some of these teams that are dead serious, they win too. That's their method. But I think this whole dialogue has been to not put a supreme classification or a singular classification on ways to win.
Yeah, this is the only model in which you can be successful in sports. No, it's not true.
Exactly. Well said.
Time now for Pros 2, the segment of the show where delay of game gives Pros 2 someone or something.
Yes, I said we were going to bring it back, and we are bringing it back as well. It's not just random facts. It is props 2 as well. So I will start it off first.
Ryan Swanigan. Props 2.
Props 2. And I usually go with these lower end conferences, but the Big East Basketball Conference right now, they have so many good teams. It's like the Mountain West the last couple of years. And I think this year's Mountain West is not that good, honestly. Yeah, I'm looking at current Mountain West right now. Whew, it is not pretty. I think the nice, successful run for the Mountain West is over. And now it has switched to the other side of the country with the Big East. Villanova, of course, that's granted. They're going to be successful. Xavier's having a great year. Providence is having a great year. Seton Hall's coming alive. They are having a great year. Butler, my Butler Bulldogs that I always jump to every time they're in the tournament, they're having a great year. A lot of very good teams in the Big East Conference right now, and I certainly hope that the success continues for those teams. And who knows, maybe some other teams will jump in there and be just as good. But props to the Big East Basketball Conference right now, looking very, very good right now.
The Big East might have the best player in college basketball too. Chris Dunn at Providence is an absolute stud.
Absolutely. Well said. In fact, Matt, let's go to you right there.
Matt Rigby.
Okay, I think that I'm going to tie mine together with a couple things we've been talking about loosely. Number one, it's a coach. I mean, we talked a lot about NFL coaching, but it's not the NFL. Number two, and this is a very loose tie, but I'm going to tie it to the Warriors because the team that beat the Warriors last night for the Warriors' fourth loss is the Detroit Pistons, and my props are going to go out to Stan Van Gundy.
Yes.
Stan Van Gundy has somewhat quietly, and it's weird that we say this quietly because you guys remember, and this would have been in our youth, how good Detroit was for 4 or 5 years.
Rasheed Wallace,
right? Ben Wallace.
Prince,
they're retiring Ben Wallace's jersey, I think, tomorrow night. Or
last night.
Like that. Last night.
Chauncey Billups,
And Chauncey Billups. Rip Hamilton was on those teams, too.
Yeah.
And so
God, they were loaded.
Detroit was fantastic for a few years, and then it's almost like they fell off the face of the earth. It was one of those things where, like, when I was naming all the NBA teams, Detroit would be the last one. I'd forget about them until the very end. And quietly, they're 4 games over 500 this year. They I wouldn't say handily beat Golden State last night, but they beat them, and 4 teams have done that at the halfway point this year.
113.95, so that's almost by 20.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty good.
And they're 7th in the East, but beyond that, they don't have like a great roster. And I think that what Stan Van Gundy's done is a few things. Number one, he's had a vision. When he got there, he had a vision, just like he did in Orlando. He said, okay, I see we have Dwight Howard on the roster. I'm going to build the roster around him. Last year, he said, okay, whatever we're doing with Josh Smith isn't working. He cut him. From there, they've improved thoroughly. So he cuts Josh Smith. He starts to implement his vision. Then he says, okay, let's look at what we have on our roster. Drummond, some other guys that are on the Pistons roster. And he from that point calls a spade a spade. He from everything I've read, he told his players exactly like it was. He said, this is our personnel. I'm not going to string you along. I'm going to tell you what we can do, what we can't do, what we do well, what we don't do well, what will work, what won't work. And from everything that Detroit players have said to the media, he's very straight up with them, and he's very demanding, but he's fair. And they respect that. And because he matches his personnel to what he can get out of his roster, and because he's honest with them about their limitations and that they're still a little ways away, but if they stick with the plan with Van Gundy, that they're going to reach that 2 or 3 year stretch where they're really good, kind of like what we were talking about with some of these teams in the NFL. And if he's honest with those players, they buy in, and the success comes maybe even a little earlier than anticipated. And I think we're starting to see that probably a year ahead of schedule for Detroit. It looks to me like they're probably going to get in. It's going to be 4 or 5 teams fighting for the last 2 spots in the East. But the East is totally better than it has been. It's probably better than the West.
I was just going to say, there is finally now, there has been a shift in the NBA, and now both conferences are back to even. And I really honestly think that happened during this offseason. There were multiple teams in the Eastern Conference that had not great, big time guys that signed, but they signed guys that would help the team in a good way. Solid basketball players. The Pacers were one of those teams. The Heat were another. The Hawks, I think, no, maybe not the Hawks. The Pistons. The Pistons were another one of those teams. I don't know if the Orlando Magic were or not, but even and still, they're building up too, because they're now sitting at 20-19 and they're 9th place. They're outside the playoff picture. 20-19, that would get you 5th or 4th last year.
Right.
And now you have 9 teams above 500, almost 10 in the East, and you've got 7 in the West. One of them straddling on 500. That's the Houston Rockets at the 7th spot. So there is definitely, I think, there has been a shift again. And now it's not, more East dominated, but I think it's now even between the West and the East.
And the Pistons, the Pistons are right in the middle of that shift. They're one of the teams moving the paradigm. So props to the Detroit Pistons. It's prop to Stan Van Gundy.
Oh, yeah.
Not just for what he's done in Detroit, but for reviving his career. I think a lot of people thought Stan Van Gundy was done after Orlando, so it's been awesome to see him. I mean, a lot of people don't like Stan Van Gundy for his mannerisms, but I think that he's a fun coach. Again, we get back to fun.
Right.
He's a fun coach. He's fun to have in the league, and the Pistons' revival has been good for the NBA.
Brent Bonfleur.
Props to Bram Kohlhausen. Sound familiar a little bit? TCU's backup quarterback that came in
right on.
for Trevon Boykin had 4 total touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 passing to help them come back from that 31-0 deficit and win that game. Well, Disney is wanting, and they need his permission still,
considering,
doing a movie about his life.
Which is interesting.
Right. He began his collegiate football career at the University of Houston, transferred to L.A. Harbor College after a sophomore season, then went to TCU as a walk-on, and obviously sat behind Boykin. But Gary Patterson announced after their Alamo Bowl victory that Kohlhausen's going to receive a full scholarship to finish up his time.
That's great.
And get his college degree. And so just, kind of a classic underdog story. And I believe, he lost his dad 6 weeks before that bowl game.
Wow.
That's
what a great story.
Yeah.
That would be a great story to make.
Just kind of a rough time, and then a big turnaround for him. So things looking up for Bram Kohlhausen. Disney possibly doing a movie on his life. That'd be pretty cool. So props to him for keeping his head up, sticking with things.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now to the part of the show where Matt Rigby has just been dying to get to, the predictions. Believe it or not. Now, those of you who know Delay of Game well, know that we always kept track of I always tried to keep track of points, and I struggled through, and I held on and successfully did. And we always kept track of who won and whatnot. Well, Matt Rigby has decided to revive that, but he's putting a different spin on it. Instead of point values like we used to do, well, we're now going to bring records into it. And Matt Rigby has gone back. He looked at last week's predictions and who did well and who flopped, like the team that he's representing right now. And what do you got, Matt?
Okay, so we're one game short of what we did last week. We talked about this, the three of us, before we went on air. We're still short Broncos Steelers, but our percentages, if you will, our win percentage really won't change. I guess it would change. Our standings in relation to each other will not change because we all have the Broncos this afternoon. So even if Pittsburgh wins, we'll be even in relation to each other. But with the 8 games that were completed that we picked last week, from the time that we were on air last week to the time of the recording today, Brent Bonfleur 4-4.
Yeah,
some college basketball picks killed him.
Yeah,
that'll be a trend.
Just like the Baltimore Ravens. He's wearing a Ravens shirt.
We could say the Clemson pick killed him, although as we talked about, the three of us, Clemson probably outplayed Alabama.
Oh yeah,
so I don't fault him for that pick. It was a close game. It was a good game. But like I said, college basketball probably killed him. Ryan Swanigan 5-3. College basketball wasn't as kind to you either. The Chiefs weren't kind to you yesterday, my friend. So,
it was
what
close.
What are you going to do there? Yeah. And I'm 7-1.
Believe that. How about that?
What was your one?
We all lost Michigan State. Michigan State got blown out by Iowa.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
it
was a home game.
But I did not mention this to you guys off air. But you guys know what state I'm from. I'm from the sports gambling capital of the world. So I'm from the sports gambling capital of the world. So
we got hustled, Ryan.
I didn't even think about it.
I've been a savvy sports bettor my whole life.
You know what he probably did? He probably called some of his buddies up in Vegas.
I had my bookie on the phone when we were picking. So
he's got a little earplug going through his ear right now, saying, "All right, get ready for this week's predictions. I've got them all in front of me. Stand by."
We got hustled.
Absolutely.
Man.
I've got the MGM Grand on line 1.
Yeah,
I've got what's another casino? I'm drawing. I've got Caesar's Palace on line 2.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. The Bellagio.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Man.
That's just...
That's great.
We shall continue.
You gotta be kidding me.
Props to Matt Rigby. Even with his Vegas connections, 7-1. That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
Going up against some guys who've been in delay of game for a little while.
Those are not all easy games to pick.
Oh, of course not.
So
neither are this week's.
Yeah.
I mean, I go through when I make these predictions, I pick the good games.
I will say, Ryan, for our sake, it is a war, not just a battle.
It's always been. You should have seen me and Kipper with these predictions, man. It was always a battle between he and I. We're just, the power struggle to be on top. My goodness. All right, so I guess we will. Let's do the college basketball ones because these are actually pretty good, and there's a few more. We'll do the NBA ones off air. These predictions will be posted on our website, our Facebook page, facebook.com/delay of game. And I know Matt Rigby is going to be working on keeping track of the records
throughout the season.
Yes, throughout our time here for Delay of Game for predictions. Oh man, I can't wait till baseball season. We're gonna have some fun with that one. You're gonna be like,
we'll have to end the season there. You guys can have your own thing.
We'll have to help out.
We gotta cut the.
Have to help out Brent.
I'll just pick whatever you guys pick.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay. All right.
I was gonna say that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Anyways, college basketball, we got some good games this week. Oklahoma and Iowa State up in Ames, Iowa. Brent Bonfleur, you were up first. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. Yep.
I want to say Iowa State, but I'm going to go Oklahoma.
All right. Matt Rigby?
Man, you took the words out of my mouth. I want to say Iowa State. My model says home team. But Buddy is Buddy, man. Buddy is probably my favorite player in all of basketball, any level right now. So I'm sticking with Oklahoma.
I'm going with Iowa State. I'm going to go with that home court advantage. Excuse me. Butler and Providence. We got a few Big East games on here. There's some really good games. Starting with Butler taking on Providence. Brent,
you said it. Best player in the country. Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah. Let's go Providence.
All right, Matt.
Thing is, I think Providence is scary. I think Chris Dunn is amazing, but you guys saw Butler lost one of their teammates. Did you guys see that?
One of former teammates. Yeah,
he died of cancer.
Smith.
Yes. Yeah. And did Butler win yesterday? I know that they dedicated the game to him. They've basically dedicated the rest of their season to him. So I don't like to always incorporate things like that when I pick games, but man, teams really rally around stuff like that.
Look at the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, exactly.
Biggest example
with
in
John
history.
Farrell,
yeah.
I'll go with Butler. I think that is two road teams. Whew. Anyway, I think that's a reason to pick Butler, that they are going to play inspired basketball the rest of the way.
I'm going to go with Providence again with the home court advantage, and Providence is such a very dangerous team, even though they lost yesterday, I believe, to Seton Hall. Interesting. On the road to Seton Hall. That was a home game for Providence, so maybe Butler will win. I don't know. I'm sorry I'm going against Butler, too, by the way. I know I said I liked them a lot in the tournament, but that's what's happening. Villanova and Seton Hall, another Big East game that I'm really looking forward to. Brent?
I'll go Villanova.
Okay. Matt?
It's Villanova, Seton Hall?
Mm-hmm.
I'll go Villanova.
Yeah, I'm going to go Seton Hall.
Really?
I like the upset. Yeah. I think Seton Hall, if they can beat Providence at Providence, why can't Seton Hall go home and go home and do it against Villanova? All right, back to the Big 12. Oklahoma taking on Baylor. This is another road game for the Sooners.
I'm still gonna go with Oklahoma. I just think they're better.
Okay. Matt?
That's tough. Oklahoma.
Baylor is kind of tricky good this year, too.
Yeah,
the game's in Waco?
Yeah.
And you got to think Oklahoma's luck's going to run out sometime.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go with Iowa State.
I'll go with Baylor.
Baylor?
My luck, those will be flipped. They'll lose to Iowa State and then Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
probably.
What
See, that's what I've got. I've got Iowa State winning, and then I've got Oklahoma beating Baylor. I think this will happen. All right, back to the Big East once again. Providence and Villanova. Another great matchup.
That's gonna be a good game.
Jeez. These are tough.
I told you. This is why I picked the best.
I'll go. I'll hedge my. Well, no, I picked them both once, so I guess I'm not really hedging. Who's the home team in that one?
Villanova.
I'll take Villanova. That'll be in my deciding factor.
That kid.
Villanova's the home team?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing because I had taken them each once as well, so I'll take the home team.
Villanova it is, right across the board. Seton Hall at Xavier. This is another team I kind of enjoy out of the Big East. I just enjoy the Big East a lot, except for Villanova. I don't care. But Seton Hall, Xavier, Butler, love those teams. Brent, what do you got?
I really don't know much about either of these teams.
Xavier is very good at home. I know that.
Yeah. And you pick Seton Hall, so I'll have to go Xavier.
Xavier?
Just,
going with Xavier?
Yeah, because I can't pick the same team
I'll
as
take
you.
Xavier, too.
Oh, I picked Xavier, Brent.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, you picked Seton Hall earlier.
Yeah, exactly. I picked Seton Hall to upset Villanova. All right, finally, let's get to some Big Ten basketball, because that's where it's at. Maryland, Michigan State. Woohoo! Oh, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Just love it.
Yeah! Heavyweights.
Whoa!
Ooh, do I have to pick first?
Yes.
I'll go Michigan State.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, hey, man.
I hardly ever do this, but I'm going to take just the better team rather than home team or trends or anything like that. Maryland's the better team to me. I think Maryland, to me, all year, and they'll enter the tournament this way in my mind too, is the most complete team in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And they might not be number one all season long because they might lose a few games, might not have signature wins, but come tournament time, I think they'll be the most equipped because they're the most complete team in my mind.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I'm going with Maryland. It's so difficult to try and find a way to beat them unless you're North Carolina, which I don't know how they pulled that off. But it's still, Maryland is just, they're so good. And they have they're almost like Golden State, in the fact that you've got to outscore them if you want to win. You really do. That's how you're going to beat the Terps if you're going to have a chance at all. So I just don't think Michigan State can do it. And I'm going with Maryland. Maryland did, I think, win their... Or maybe it was Michigan State. I don't know. There was a New Year's Day game that was there. That was really good. Maryland, Michigan State. I'm not certain, but anyways. All right. Rest of the predictions, just 4 NBA games. Those will be on our Facebook page, facebook.com/delayofgame. Check us out. Twitter, twitter.com/DOG_podcast or at DOG_podcast. Our website, of course, the Delay of Game Podcast.wordpress.com. For Brent Bonfleur, Matt Rigby, watching the blowout that's ensuing right now
24-0. What happened?
Well, we'll talk about it next week. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. Maybe we'll predict the games for that. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Glad to have you tune in for this podcast. Be sure to check out our other ones, of course, on our website and stick around for
practice
next week.
Adulting.
That's just a great way to end it. Practice adulting.
Gotta go adult now.
Matt Rigby won this show today. Matt Rigby won this show, and I love it. We'll see you next week.